welcome to Women in EdTech Live at TCEA 2022. I am so excited to introduce my guests today, Lydia Croupe, Dr. Monica Burns, and Jennifer Hall. We're so excited to hear from each of these women in tech. They're going to have a lot to share. We're really just going to have a good time together, and we're going to talk tech. We're going to talk some other things, so we hope you enjoy. So, ladies, if you'll give us a little intro, tell us a little bit about yourselves and your role, and really anything else you would like the audience to know.
Do you want to start at that end?
Oh, sure.
Go
Yay.
for it.
As you said, my name is Jennifer Hall, and I'm an educational technology specialist for Atlanta Public Schools. It's exciting to be here. I work with teachers and push in and help them with technology to enhance what they're doing. Former middle school language arts teacher, and this is so exciting to be amongst EdTech folks here today.
Hi everyone, my name is Monica Burns. I'm a former New York City public school teacher, still based on the East Coast, and I've been out of the classroom for a few years, writing about EdTech, sharing about all things EdTech, and working with schools and districts around professional development for education technology.
And I'm Lydia Croupe. I actually am the Instructional Technology Coordinator in Ferris ISD, a new role I took on at the end of last year. And I am also the TCEA Area 10 Director. So I'm very excited that conference is here this year in my hometown of Dallas, Texas. Before all that, I taught high school English for 11 years, and then for about 6 years I was in instructional technology before moving to Ferris ISD.
And of course, you know me, I am the Wakelet digital learning specialist, and we all have a background in educational technology. I do want to shout out Monica's book, EdTech Essentials. If you have not bought your copy of this book, you need to. I think every classroom needs this. You guys, we need to get you a copy just so that you can share it with your teachers. It really is a great strategy book for implementing technology, which is what I know we're all passionate about. That has been our role, right? How many years were you an instructional coach, digital coach?
So 6 years and before I became the coordinator.
Okay, and then Jennifer, you're currently at Atlanta.
In Atlanta.
Yeah?
So I taught for 17 years, and then actually this is my 8th year as an EdTech coach. But I have to point this out, and Monica's not going to know this, but my first EdTech conference I went to was actually in Atlanta. It was ISTE, and I saw you present there, and it was the day before I interviewed for my job. So literally, like, little inspiration
Chills.
there. So I'm a little like, hey, I can't believe I'm sitting here next to you. But yeah, it's kind of amazing, my journey in the last 8 years, but then I'm sitting here on the couch with you. It's kind of cool.
Oh my gosh, well, thank you so much for sharing that.
It's so cool. I think that's what is really great about this Women in EdTech podcast is that there are so many women inspiring each other, and a lot of times we don't know that we're inspiring each other. I said earlier to Monica, you know, I follow a lot of you on social media, and so many times I won't actually engage, but you have to know you're all inspiring me with what you're sharing and empowering those other people around you. So thank you all for doing that. So we're going to just go ahead and start right off with our questions. So we'll just go in order with Lydia, Monica, and Jennifer. And, you know, you guys can interrupt me at any time. So how much do you think the EdTech space has changed since you joined the EdTech community? So we kind of talked about how long we've been in education, but how have you seen it change since you first started?
Well, the sheer fact you can get a degree in it now. People can go to school and get undergrad degrees or even master's, doctorates. There's whole systems of,
Right.
like, you can study it now. We didn't have that. And I would tell people, you know, when we always say we're teaching kids for jobs that don't exist, which, anyway, I am that kid.
Yeah,
This didn't
me too.
exist
Me
when
too.
I was a kid, right? And I mean, you know, I'm not a spring chicken, but I'm not also, but so it's interesting that I am that kid, but the fact that I work with people who actually went to school for this, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I agree.
Gosh, that is such a great point, just to think about all the different certifications that are available, different types of professional development. I think the first thing I thought of when you asked that question was my iPad cart as a classroom teacher. And this was before any of the types of deployments that we're so grateful to have now with like wireless updates and different things, where I was just trying to plug in all of those cords. And if one of those iPads wasn't plugged in all the way, pre-lightning cable, right? It just, the whole thing would be, you know, a lot tougher, I guess, is a nice way of putting it. So just, it's so wonderful to see some of the changes around the ease and efficiency of all the systems that are now available.
True.
Well, I just think there's a number of tools that didn't exist. When I was in the classroom and I was the tech savvy teacher,
Yes.
it was like, my students more than once would say, well, Miss Hall, why did you not go to school for technology? And I was like, let's back up.
Right.
The tools that we're using, for example, like a Promethean board, I had like the first generation. I said, that didn't exist.
Yeah.
I was a high-tech teacher when I used color transparencies.
Yes.
I'm aging
Yes.
myself. I'm
Yes,
owning it
no,
though.
you're right.
So that technology wasn't there. That was technology that was out in other spaces. It wasn't in education. So when I did move from being in the classroom to my role now, it's amazing leaps and bounds, like what Google and Microsoft and all these other tools, like Wakelet didn't exist back then. So all of these tools that have been developed to support students, it is a whole, like you said, there's the ecosystem of degrees, certifications, and support. It's just kind of amazing to me. And it's always evolving. There's always something new, and you got to kind of keep up with changes.
And don't you think that we have such a unique perspective? I mean, especially those of us who've been teaching pre-edtech, post-edtech. The generation of students that we're teaching now that are in school, that's all they know. And then you have the people before us who don't really understand it. I think that we really offer this incredible perspective because we can sort of talk to both sides, right?
Well,
it's a dance.
Well, my favorite thing to look at is generations, right? So I don't know about you guys. I identify more Gen X, but I'm what they call a zillennial because I'm that that tail end before the millennials. But I like to study that idea of a generation because my oldest son is a Gen Z, my youngest son is a Gen Alpha, and the defining factor between them is that the iPad was invented. So my 9-year-old has never lived in a world without an iPad. And that is just mind-blowing to me.
Absolutely. It was very intriguing. Well, that sort of brings me to my next question. So what is something that you practiced in your classroom as like a first-year teacher that you now have sort of tossed out? So I'll give you an example. For me, one of my moments is I used to give my students rubrics. I love rubrics. I love all the different rubrics out there. But one of the things I did is I was telling my students the low point to hit on my rubric, the middle of the road, and then the high point. And now looking back, I'm like, Tisha, you should have just gave them the bullseye. Why don't you just give them one single point to hit and then help them adjust their sails? So that is mine. I have definitely changed that approach because I feel like maybe I was empowering them to just do the minimum of their expectations and their learning and not really going above and pushing themselves. So what would you guys choose?
Reading logs. But we taught English. What did you do? Those
Reading
kids
logs.
better read 20 minutes a day. Read to a teddy bear. Read to your friend. Read inside. I mean, better do better. I get it, but it just makes me crazy when kids get reading logs sent home. And what really, for me, so my oldest reads like I do. That was never a battle. He'll pick up a book and read it. But my youngest, we would read all the time as a family together, each other, loved it. But the minute he did the reading log, he hated reading. I don't want to read. And I tried to explain to him, but when we read at night, that counts. No, I have to write it down. It has to be this kind. I'm like, we're completely killing this love of reading. And I think of doing that to my students, and I feel awful about it because there's so many other ways, especially now, they could share what they're reading without me having to track how many minutes they're reading. So.
It's interesting. Okay.
I like that too, and one of the things that I was thinking of has to do some of the systems and routines that we have probably changed right from the beginning. And I was telling this story to a group I was working with in Florida actually a few weeks ago about how when we think about journals or anything that we might collect from students, I just have this this panic inside of me of thinking about a pile of marble notebooks, hoping everyone has their pencil as a bookmark or whatever the instruction was for that day. And I was sharing a book creator at FATC and talking about how you can see everyone's journal in one place at any time and go straight to the page, and it's not like this logistical nightmare.
Right.
So I think going back to those first years, having systems that were kind of all over the place, really super duper analog, right? So pre-iPhone, pre all the nice stuff that you can do now, right? With all the things, chalk and chalkboard, transparencies and my fingers, all different colors from the day, right? So just some of those systems I would go back to with a magic wand to change,
to get all that time back.
Yes.
As an ELA teacher,
Yes.
I literally would carry, I had a
Yep.
crate for each of my classes to take home because we did free write journal writing on Fridays, and I'd have to go back and read it. But you're right, there's tools that make that a lot
Oh, yeah.
easier. But I still think that's important to do something like that with students. But now that you have tech to make it a little bit easier. But I agree with the reading logs. I was chuckling at my students are like, really? We have to, track that. And then it was, for me, it was a lot of something that I got away from doing. But I used to do notebook checks. I'm aging myself. Do y'all remember that? It was like you had to do the old school notebook checks.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Which now we have tools to
Sign the notebook.
Yes, I need to check it. I need this page, number 3, should be page number 3 in everybody's notebook. But then something I had to come to understand about my students is we don't all organize and function the same way.
No.
So with that being
Yes.
said, I had to realize that your organization, you might be a hot mess, but you're doing great because
Yes.
you've
Yep.
got it in different
Yep.
places.
Yes.
Monica has we all have a different approach.
Yes.
So for me, it was trying to not fit all my students in one box.
Yes.
Yep.
And figure that that's the way it's going to be. So that was unlearning that and like relinquishing the power of being the lead. Like I don't need to be the sage on the stage. I need to
Absolutely.
like give students that kind of autonomy. And now we have tools that allow us, to let students organize the way they want.
Really coming back to Wakelet,
Right.
that in the classroom, that is what Wakelet taught me, right? So I was doing digital portfolios with my students, and I realized that all those years had set me up to expect every portfolio to look the same, and my students were doing things that were so individual to their personalities, their talents, their strengths, and I went, it doesn't have to look the same, Tisha. You need to adjust your thought process as you're presenting this to them. So I think that's intriguing. So I have a question about SDGs. So I don't know how much you know about SDGs, but Wakelet currently has a challenge with Google, having your students go through SDGs. I really just want to hear from you on maybe one of you can tell us what they are, and then also how do you think those can be implemented into the classroom for students for extended learning beyond those 4 walls?
Yeah, I can jump in here
Sure.
if you want me to. So the Sustainable Development Goals are definitely ones that I love to learn what other people are doing. I came from a traditional public school that we transformed, maybe is the right word, I don't know what the right word would be, but we became a magnet school, and our theme was environmental stewardship. So we were always thinking about ways that we could connect the curriculum to things outside of our classroom. So we did not use the SDGs during that time, but I'm always on the lookout, talk to a lot of people about the ways that they're using them, because it's really a powerful way to frame authentic learning experiences, and was very excited when I saw the partnership that you all are part of.
Yes. Have you guys used them are you using them in classrooms, or are your teachers using them?
I'm going to be honest, this is a new thing for us to roll out, because it's another, I hate to say this, teachers are like, here's another thing you want us to add to our plate. But I want them to understand that it's actually that it infuses like
Absolutely.
being future ready and thinking. So I think there's a lot of potential for that. You said a magnet school. In Atlanta, we have schools that are either STEM focused or IB schools. So to me, it lends itself to both.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So
Yes.
It's, excited that there is that partnership with Google and in the challenge. So
Yeah, so just FYI, the deadline for that is March the 31st, I believe. March the 3rd, March the 31st. We'll put it in the notes, but make sure you check out that challenge, and I'll share it with all of you so that you'll have that. Do you have anything you want to add to that,
No,
Lydia?
I love them. It's tricky because I was in a larger district where curriculum's pretty, and so it's not like I could march in and say, you guys should do this. I can suggest it to teachers.
Yes.
And in my new district, same thing right now. It's not like I'm going to march in and change, but like I'm suggested. But what I did do, I emailed, so both my boys are in a magnet. They're in the Travis in Uptown here in Dallas. And I emailed their teachers. I'm like, hey, I just saw this. This would be kind of cool. And my youngest, his social studies teacher said, oh yeah,
I love
have that
that.
I have that on deck. We're going to be doing those this spring. She sent the letter home explaining it and everything. So I've never used them, but he's
And I
hopefully
didn't
experiencing
either. I mean, that's the truth. Like, I just had not dove into that yet, but I started looking at those probably in the last year or two. And as a parent, what I started doing is reframing how I ask my kids questions, my own kids. And so I asked my son the other day, so what world problem are you going to solve this week, Jace? And he said, It's really interesting that you said that, Mom. He was trying to figure out energy and solar energy, and he was like, I love solar energy, but it's really expensive. And he had this whole, like, in his brain, just started spitting out all of these things. And I thought, had I not I didn't ask my girls that. My 21-year-old did not get that side of me as a parent, right? But he is now thinking of the world in that way and is empowered to approach it completely differently.
Well, we have to quit asking students, so what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yes.
I don't want no. It's what problems you want to
Yes.
solve. What are the things in the world that you would like to see differently?
Yes.
I mean, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I mean, this
It's
you know,
still
it's always
transforming for us.
it's
Yeah.
always evolving and things. So exactly, it's presenting those students opportunities to think outside the box and some kids are very passionate about those things.
Oh yeah.
Like when I was in the classroom, we started a Go Green initiative at my school, and the kids were like, we had a recycling program that we started at the school. They were very interested in it, and it was something that they could do. So that's at a school level, but for them to see that they can impact beyond the walls of the school is very important.
Yes, so powerful. Well, it's interesting that you said that. So the next question, I'm leading into this. I was on TikTok. So talk about the landscape changing, right? We went from like MySpace to TikTok, but I was on TikTok and I posted a comment that said edtech, something edtech. Yeah. And I realized that so many people do not know what the term edtech is. So my question to all of you is, what advice do you have for Wakelet watchers, TCEA attendees that maybe have not immersed themselves in the edtech space? What is your advice to that, and how does it afford opportunities for their students? It's a little bit about PLN, maybe.
That's a heavy question. Tisha. The real challenge is to change your own mind first. Like, for me, my journey, when I entered into this educational technology, it was, guys, let's make a Glogster. These look fun. Those of you laughing.
Wow.
I know what you're talking about.
To a memory I didn't know I had.
Right.
Exactly,
So,
right.
when the Google Classroom first rolled out, like trying to cram it, I'm like, no, this is cool. We're gonna make this work. And I already told her this, and I'm gonna brag about it again. Reading her book, Tasks Before Apps. I went, oh, that's what that's supposed to look like. I think just the idea that teachers need confidence in their own pedagogy. Like, you're a teacher, you know what you're doing, and they need to, they have to have that idea that, it's not about this is a cool app, this is a cool platform, this is a cool game. I need to use this with my kids. It needs to be, I know what my kids need to learn. Right. What helps me achieve that? And I think that's, I don't know if it really answers your question.
I was going to say, what action steps?
So for me, it was read. It's read. Absorb information. That sounded a lot ruder than I meant it. Just read a book. But no, gather that information. Connect. Twitter's my thing. Connect with people. Go to these kinds of places. Just absorb. Be that sponge. Take in everything you can. And then when you are ready to try something, right? I tell people, find those universal tools, right? Your Google Workspace for ed stuff, your Wakelets, your things that lend themselves to, no matter what you're doing, they're going to be able to work with it. I think if you focus too much on the content of well, I'm English, I need only English apps. It's going about it the wrong way, right? It's like looking at a Google Doc, yes. Can it help you write a paper because it already has a template? Sure. But how else could we use that to support, just starting to think of what are the goals my kids, what are we learning, what are our outcomes, and how do all these tools support that? I don't know, that was a very
That's
nice
great.
No, but Lydia, that's exactly it. Anytime a teacher comes to me like, I heard about this cool new tool, I want to use it in my class, and I'm like, that's great, but let's back up. What are you trying to accomplish?
Yes. What problem?
What standard are we working on?
Exactly.
And then we can work our way backwards.
Yes.
But I think that's funny they said that about on TikTok, that edtech's that thing. So this is a safe space, right?
Yes.
I joined TikTok.
Yes.
And I created a couple videos, and of course I tagged it with edtech and realized that that's not a thing on TikTok. They don't look at that. And I was like, nobody watched. I did not go viral on TikTok with my videos. I'm very upset. But you're right, because think about who the audience that's on TikTok. It's a totally different.
They don't
audience.
even have any reference.
So for them, it's just technology.
Absolutely.
Versus when you're in education and you've been doing it for a long time, they're like, oh, you want to bring that technology into my education realm.
Right.
And there's a shift for those older teachers, those rock stars that are like, okay. And then it's very interesting. I met someone in my session I did earlier, and she's like, I just want to say thank you. I'm a first year teacher, and so many of your like YouTube tutorials and videos and resources helped me. And I'm like, that was helpful. That's amazing. But here you think that someone younger, that's
right,
just starting in education would automatically know.
No, yeah.
Because it's.
Don't you think, Jen, and the rest of you, like, we have to not assume that, right?
Right.
Like, for us, because we're so immersed in it, we have to kind of take that assumption away.
And sorry, I know you probably wanted to say something, but just real quick, like, a lot of the pre-service programs for educators, they're behind,
True.
right?
True. Oh,
so I know that
absolutely.
here, TWU has a great pre-service program for educators that integrates the technology appropriately in the way it should be.
Right.
But that's the other problem. Until those institutions start changing, we're going to get these new teachers who've never used it in their own learning.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And even just pushing out a question or posing the question to a group, like, what's our intention here?
Yes.
Just to spark some conversation, I think is a really great step, especially for someone who might have a lot of experience or not very much experience, just to have them thinking about why they're choosing something. And I'm so glad you mentioned TikTok also. We all have that person in our life that's like, I learned this on TikTok, or I heard this on a podcast, and I am that person.
Me
for
too.
most
Me
people
too.
that I know. So I really appreciate it, because I do think it's fun to have those bite-sized learning
It's
experiences.
like the micro learning is really
Exactly.
where it's at. And if you think about it, our students, that is their everyday, that is their life. They don't even have to identify it or label it, because it's just immersed in what they do every day. Whereas for us, we identify that as, that's micro learning. I'm going to go on TikTok and learn something today. And again, it goes back to the generation.
It's that bite-sized, I need it really quick, really fast. I could rewatch it if I need to, but if not, if I'm done. Because a lot of times we're like, I don't want to watch a 20-minute tutorial. Show me what I need in like little 30-second bits, and I'm done.
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely. No, that was great. Okay, so what advice would you go back and give yourself 20 years ago?
Oh, my goodness.
20 years ago. What was I doing 20 years ago?
You know what my advice would be while you're thinking? My advice to myself would be to relinquish expectations of what teaching, my classroom, my life look like, and be more open to the possibilities. Because I think in pre-service teacher programs, it was very, like you said, very clear cut. And then I got into the classroom and I went, there's all this technology. They're on Facebook. And it sort of was a shock to me. And so I think had I went into it with more of an open mind instead of, like sort of closed off, I would have been much better off.
Yeah, I think, just thinking back, right, to start of career maybe, right, just visiting more classrooms, I think would have been a big piece of advice, because you just learned so much from being in someone else's space. Learn not just what you want to do, but what might not be part of your style, right, or is great for that person, but not for you.
And I always say I used to tell my students, there's a way, not the way.
Yep. Yes.
And a lot of times as a first year teacher, I thought there was just one way to do it.
Right.
And I wish somebody had said, Tisha, like, there's lots of ways to do this one thing.
Right, different systems, different routines. I taught 5th grade one year where all of my kids had been most of them had been with the same teacher the year before. And it's the beginning of the school year, and I would say stuff, and they would be on the rug, and they were all like, tap their head. I was like, I don't know what this means, right? And so I finally was like, I need to find Miss Munches. This must be like a Miss Munches situation, because they all were with her in 4th grade. And she goes, oh yeah, like I agree or I don't agree. I was like, okay, that makes a lot more sense. And I'm like, I love this routine. And then I started bringing it into my practice because it worked for me. And then when I transitioned out of the classroom to do professional development, I would be in these rooms full of 70 educators. I'm like, that is awesome. And I'm like, I need to do this. And it took about 2 years of me having to explain why I just did that to a room full of adults.
That's funny.
But yeah, like you see these great things. And so if I had to go back to bring it back to your question, I think spending more time in different classrooms, getting a feel for what I loved or what I appreciated but might not be for me, would definitely be high on my list. Yeah.
I was thinking about that 20 years ago. It was when I moved. I was teaching in Florida. I had taught for 5 years. So I was like, I got this. and then I moved to Atlanta, and I'm not going to lie, like the first couple months in, I was like, what am I doing? Like, I would say I would give myself grace to say it's okay. You don't have to be the expert.
Yes.
And to let students know, I'm going to try. I was very fortunate through the years that I got to loop with some of my groups.
Nice.
So I was over the Gifted Academy at one of my at the school was Brown Middle School. It's now H.J. Russell Weston Academy in Atlanta. And so I had this kid since 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade. And the best compliment I ever got from a kid was that they admired me. I was like, okay, that's nice. We're doing an activity. They're like, no, I admire you because you're always trying to improve.
Aw.
Now, for a kid to notice that,
Right.
like that from 6th grade to 7th grade to 8th grade,
Oh,
that you
absolutely.
noticed, I didn't use those same tricks and tools and resources. It was always trying to bring it up. So that to me, as teachers, it's okay to fail, but it's also like it's okay to try new things and do that. So for me, I always tell kids, we're gonna try something. It might go great, it might not. Let's see how it goes. So, but I always put a lot of pressure on myself those first few years of like perfection, and that everything that students did was on me, and then it really I had to relinquish that ownership to them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, really, just I would tell myself to learn why you feel you have to be perfect, because you all get older. Wisdom comes with age, and so as older I get, I'm like, why am I doing this?
Yes.
Why am I? And so you learn about yourself and who you are. And so I would just tell myself start a little earlier, because going back to that, there is that fear, like this has to be perfect, and that whole there is a way, not the way. That I would have kicked you out of my room.
I know.
Like there's the way. It's what you're seeing right now, and anyone not doing it, gone. Right. So just tell myself, learn a little bit more about what's going on in other classrooms. Learn a little bit more about having a way, not the way, and yourself, and why you feel you got to be perfect, right? Because I think just looking back on some things that I took so to heart, or that would, as teachers, you can't flip out in front of kids, so you internalize the stress.
Sure.
So like, learn more about what makes you tick, and why it's okay to have different ways to approach life.
And also, you don't have to work. We get caught up in like what so and so's doing
Yep.
2 doors down the hall. Well, what are they doing that's so amazing? As an educator, you have your own personality,
Yes.
you have your
Yes.
own flair,
Yes.
and your own approach, and that's how you can be authentic
Sure.
with students. So
Yes.
I at first thought, well, they're doing awesome down the hall. I should be doing that.
Right.
And so I had to unlearn that, like that, and get comfortable in my own skin as an educator.
I'm still working on that. I want to be Jennifer Hall, but like I can't be. Okay, so you guys don't know these questions because they are rapid fire
Oh,
questions.
jeez.
And you are gonna love them.
Okay.
Okay, so
all
this
right.
is a fill in the blank, and you only get one word to fill in the blank with.
geez.
Okay, so that's
good.
gonna
Right,
be.
ELA
Say
teachers
that to
live
me.
with
I'm
it, but
like,
like-
oh, geez.
I know,
Does
I
a
know.
phrase count as a word? How about hyphenated word? Sorry, go
Okay,
ahead.
so blank is essential for preparing students for success beyond the classroom. Blank is essential.
Choice.
Flexibility.
Curiosity.
Those are great answers, don't you think? Wow, I love it. Okay, what is one song that reminds you of your childhood?
But can it be a more current song that reminds me of that?
Sure.
Okay, so This Is Me from The Greatest Showman.
Do you
Is
know
my-
that's
that is my anthem in terms of like literally
Okay,
the first
so-
time I heard it, I was like, that is me.
Yes.
And so yes, that would be
I
my
just
song.
have to tell you, I picked up the Wakelet team today from the airport, and that is I have a Wakelet playlist, and that song is on the Wakelet playlist, and they got in the car and it was playing. This is me.
Yeah.
I love it too.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I picked the best one. So
I know.
I would say Somewhere Over the Rainbow for me.
Ooh,
I,
good choice.
We
What, is
watched
it-
so much of the original.
The original, not- okay.
Judy
Yes.
Garland version.
Okay.
We just watched that videotape till I'm
Over
sure
and
someone
over
in
and
my
over.
house was ready to throw it out the window over
But
and over
that's
again.
that's a good
Yeah.
choice.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
So it's funny, both of your answers are interesting, because I couldn't decide between Being Green or Rainbow Connection.
Oh, okay.
I am a hardcore Jim Henson fan.
Okay.
And I love and I believe very strongly in the messaging he was trying to.
Yeah.
He was ahead of his time. I cried when he died. I'm gonna choke up now. So I was like, it's got to be Kermit, but which two? Because I would watch his movies. My favorites were the ones that came on TV: the Hey Cinderella and the Muppet Frog Prince, which you can't find anywhere except on VHS, and nobody even knows what those are anymore. But yeah, so it's funny because the This Is Me made me think of Being Green, like that importance of
Yep.
I'm different, but you know what?
Yes.
I'm okay with that because
Yes.
I am the only me. And then you said, Over the Rainbow, and I was like, Rainbow Connection. So I
That's
think that's
awesome.
That's so
interesting.
funny.
Yeah.
That's interesting about the Kermit and the Easy Being. That's a great song. I would pick that too. I got to see an exhibit, the Jim Henson exhibit.
Yeah.
Traveled in. It was in Atlanta, and it was
That's
so
awesome.
cool to see how they designed all of the Muppets. It's fascinating. Good
Yes.
choice, though. Yeah.
Museum of the Moving Image has a permanent exhibit of that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so Lydia, I want you to just
Sorry.
go back for the viewers and the
Oh.
listeners and say what you just said about it's okay that we aren't all the same. We're different.
Yeah.
Say that again.
It
Can you
is
say that
okay.
again?
I am me. I'm the only Lydia on this planet. Some people are very glad about that, but there cannot be anyone like me. So I need to be proud of that, and I need to own that. I need to know why what I do is the way I do it, and it's okay if I'm not the teacher down the hall. I can still be friends with the teacher down the hall, and
Sure.
we can support each other. But it isn't always easy being green. It's not always easy being the one taking the risk, doing something different, having to stand up for what's right. But in the end, if that's who I am and how I'm built, it's great. It's
Okay.
what I want to be.
That was good. I just
Okay,
needed you
yeah.
to repeat it one
Yeah,
more
that's
time.
good.
Thank you. She's going to hold that against me later, I'm
going
sure.
to upvote that one. Good job. Good job.
Yes, yes. Okay, so you can only watch one movie or TV show ever for the rest of your life. Nothing else, just one. What do you choose?
Star Wars Episode 4, like the original,
New Hope.
original.
Girl, yes.
Because that is the movie as a young child that made me fascinated with science fiction.
Yes.
And I'm like, I'll watch the others, but like that one I can
Lydia's
watch
so
over
excited.
and over and feel like I was in that world.
Sure.
I wanted to be Han Solo, not Princess Leia,
Who
not Luke.
didn't want to be?
Yes, I'm not gonna lie, that was. So for me, I think I could probably on a desert island just watch that on replay and feel like I've escaped. So yeah, totally a geeky response.
No,
but,
it's beautiful. We'll talk later.
okay.
I love that. Mine is Jurassic Park.
Okay.
Really?
Okay.
Yes.
Interesting.
All right. I
That's
do.
a
I
big
love a good
player.
Jurassic
It's
Park.
my favorite
Okay.
movie. I love action movies. It started for me really loving action movies, just one of those big theater moments. So yeah, I know it's kind of a strange one, but
No, that's
Okay,
a
that's
good
a good
choice.
choice.
Are you going to go see
I like-
the new Jurassic World? We're
Oh,
counting.
I love
yeah,
all
she's
of
on-
it. I
she's
love
ready.
all of it.
My youngest
all
reminds
of
us
it.
every day. It's coming out June 10th.
I love Jurassic. I do love the Jurassic Park.
Just the music, like
It's
all
great
that
stuff.
stuff,
It's
right?
great
It's
stuff.
So
so
have
music-
you done
I
the,
have
have you
the
done the
music
ride
on a
in
playlist.
Orlando?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
just making
That's
sure.
so good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, in case you wanted to know mine, I would choose Ted Lasso.
You said that just because you knew I was
But no,
about
wait,
to say
so
Ted Lasso.
I went movie.
She is
That's a
exactly-
TV
She
show.
said
So
movie
we
or
said
TV.
You could do movie or TV.
Okay, all right. Now if we
said that just
love
to
that,
get that
to
answer
jump
in first.
Is
Go
that-
ahead and
is that what
finish
you were
your-
gonna pick?
You know that's what I was going to pick. You pick I got another one, so you can finish your
No, it's
answer.
good.
Sorry.
It's good. Tell us why you would choose Ted Lasso.
Who wouldn't choose? I mean, have you
I will
seen
say
the
it is
show?
good. All
It
of
is
his
good.
lassoisms
Oh yeah,
I love that.
for
are
sure.
very clever.
Okay, but I will throw in. I'll let you elaborate on him. And yes, I may have watched season 1 25 times, and I'm working
That's
on.
why you need to
10 for
elaborate.
season 2. No, that show gives me hope, y'all. No, okay, then I'll pick a different one. Golden Girls.
Oh,
Great.
Golden
See,
Girls, I'm good. I'm
on,
solid.
on TV shows, I would say yes.
Yes,
Golden
for TV
Girls.
shows.
Yes.
I got to the point where I could identify the show in the first 2 seconds it was on. It made my husband crazy. I own all the seasons except Golden Palace. I don't own that. But I was going to try and get to Golden Con this year, and that didn't happen.
There's a Golden Con.
There's a Golden Con. Yeah.
I did not know
it's
that.
It's at the end of April. We'll talk about that later.
Okay,
There's
we
a
will.
Golden
But what's
Con, if you
fascinating
wanted to
though, the timelessness of the show.
Oh,
It's so
yes.
relevant now,
Yeah.
and they were very topical about things that
Yes.
were controversial.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, and so part I'm like, yeah, it's still good today, and then I go, oh, it's still good today. Like
Yeah.
some of that stuff, why are we still battling that? So it is, but I love the Golden Girls, but yes, Ted Lasso, I'm obsessed.
And another random trivia piece that I learned is that the age they were in the first season is like
Oh yeah.
I'm that age now. I'm like,
Yeah,
I
it's
can't
not
be a
very-
Golden
I
Girl.
know.
Right,
at all.
right.
That's not
No.
possible.
Right.
Not-
Right.
cannot
It's
be
like,
possible.
nope, not ready for that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
What made you laugh or smile today?
Gosh, all of this for sure. I feel like
Definitely.
I've been smiling this whole time seeing
Yes.
her.
Yeah.
I was going to say, being here, I made it through my first presentation, and it was, I got applause versus boos, so that's always happy. But yeah,
Yeah.
Just you guys, and this, I know y'all will be like, "Boo," but TCEA is the best. I absolutely love TCEA. I am honored that I'm even on the board. I've been, I get to see all the behind scenes stuff. It's really cool. I love that you all came back. Tisha can tell you I have almost run over I ran up to Monica, I'm like,
Yeah,
hi,
I
and she's
know.
like, do we know each other? I mean, I'm just, not in every way, just saying, I have a mask. It's hard to tell. But this organization has worked so hard to get everyone together. They always work so hard to bring you the right stuff, the good stuff. They support teachers and they really mean it. When, they are right there alongside us. They're all educators, and if not, they work closely with educators. And so just being here and having everyone here, this is making me happy. I'm glad y'all are at TCEA this
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, this is my first year here. I'm hoping I get to come back.
Oh,
but
definitely.
This is my
I'm telling you, you can go back however many times you
Oh,
want.
well, thank you. Well, thank you.
And
You
now
heard
that
it
you
here.
chose Star Wars, you can
Yeah,
also
look,
stay
over
at
here.
your house.
Get a friend.
You follow Star
But
Wars
it's
class.
interesting. This is only my second face-to-face conference. We had Georgia Educational Technology
Yes.
Conference in November. It's just exciting to be back with other
Yes.
passionate educators. Like if you choose to be here, unless you were voluntold to come because you're local, but
Right.
if you choose to be here, it's because you want to learn,
Yes.
you want to know more, and in the long run, that's going to benefit students. So that makes me smile.
Yeah, I'm just happy to be here with all of you.
I'm telling you, it's
I have not
exciting.
stopped smiling since we arrived yesterday,
telling
and then
you, this is
the
great.
rest of the Wakelet team joined. I mean, it's just going to be a really great week.
And seeing people in the real world
Oh,
is
my
amazing too.
goodness.
Yes.
It's been too
It's
long.
like, hello, we've talked how many times?
I
but
know,
no.
Right
I
down the couch.
I
Right.
used to do
Yeah, and when people are excited to see you, it's not just that I'm like fangirling or excited. Like people are genuinely excited. They're like, "Oh,
Right.
Lydia," and you're like, "Oh, you missed me, right?"
Oh,
like
that's
this
awesome.
is great.
Monica and I talked on Clubhouse for almost a whole
I
year
know.
before we actually got to meet in person.
That's funny.
Okay, so last little rapid fire question is, which app gets the most screen time on your phone?
Man. Mine's Instagram. It just is.
Okay.
It just
I post pictures to it. My personal account's private, so it's not like anyone's seeing them. It's more for me, I guess. But I do some early morning Insta shopping on Sundays. Girl, I told you how I
Insta
found
shopping,
this.
it's a thing.
It's they
yeah.
they sell you stuff, and I'm
Oh,
always
okay.
like, yes. As a matter of fact, I do want a vintage hockey T-shirt.
How did
right?
you know?
Like, how
Oh,
did you
wow.
know?
That's
So,
hilarious.
yeah, Instagram for sure. Because even the posts I have at Facebook is only because I posted it to Instagram and it allowed me to also share it into my Facebook. And then if it was professional, it'd be Twitter, but really it's Instagram.
I would say probably my not so exciting one is my mail app. I feel like I'm on checking the mail on my phone all the time. And then I don't know if this counts as screen time because it's more of play time. But I listen to a lot of podcasts on my phone, on speaker, or with my AirPods in. So it's got to be in one of those two categories. Yeah.
So my question is, are you a zero inbox person?
I am one of those
Okay,
terrible
so
people.
literally we're not going to see 13,000.
Oh my God,
wow.
No,
Okay.
yeah,
Can't do it.
Can't do it.
So for me, it would be two. YouTube for just scrolling and watching videos, getting inspiration. But I would say on my phone, it would be Canva, the mobile app.
Great.
I have a random T-shirt challenge, wearing different T-shirts every day, and I use Canva to
saw that.
design my
That's
Twitter and
cool.
Instagram
Yes.
posts. So I love that on the fly I can do anything. I'm
Yeah.
like, I can do magic, and it's all from my phone. So yeah, I would say definitely.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I love
it's
it.
a go-to.
Of course, mine is Wakelet.
Well, that
Right.
good answer. Well, we
Come
had to
on.
let you go with that
You
one.
have to be honest. I mean, you know.
Well, that is all, ladies. Thank you so much for
No, thank
joining
you.
me.
This has been
I'm like,
awesome.
this is
I
amazing.
have had-
I'm gonna be on this adrenaline high
I
for
know.
quite some
This
time.
is awesome.
You are so inspiring. I know everybody that's watching wishes they were at TCA with us. Please come next year. San Antonio,
I believe it's San
correct?
Antonio.
Oh, so wonderful.
We'll,
Oh, yeah, that's a
we'll
good
all be
location.
there.
Yeah.
And make sure that you follow Wakelet on all the social media channels. Also check out the Wakelet podcast at wakelet.com/at the Wakelet podcast. Go follow all of my guests. We're going to link all of their Twitter handles, their websites, and their Wakelet profiles so that you can go check out what they have on their profiles and stay connected to us. Have a great TCEA.